Good evening, viewers. My name is Limba Mupetami. Welcome to another edition of Sport Wrap. We're trying to keep things fresh, giving you fresh content. In today's Namibian Sun, you can expect to catch Dion Hotto, as he says, I do. The player has, however, decided to remain mum on his proposal, but those in the know-how say that he's planning on getting married, so we look forward to that. Also in other news, we have Ananias Gephardt, who plays for Baroka in South Africa, who has gotten another lease on life as his contract was extended to next year. So that is good news for the player. Today in studio we have Joviita Kandjumbwa, a sports radio presenter as well. So please do check that out. Today I'm joined in studio by Joviita Kandjumbwa, a sports radio presenter. Hi, welcome, Joviita.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Cool. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What are your passions? What do you do when you're not on radio?
Well, my name is Joviita Kandjumbwa. For most, just call me Joviita. And I am from the northern part of the country, from Etiliasa in the Umsati region. I like to read, write, watch a lot of sports on my downtime. So that basically means I'm working.
A lot of football.
I'm working the whole time.
Yeah. Okay, with the COVID situation right now, how do you source stories, and was it hard to think up original ideas to report about?
COVID-19 caught us off guard. We were really unprepared for COVID-19 as journalists and doing sport, because what we do is based on what sport people do. So when there's activities, that's how we get our content.
Of course.
Every single weekend, we already know we have a lineup of, okay, it's from football to cricket to rugby to athletics to cycling. We already have like a schedule, and COVID came and everything was halted. So that made our job more difficult, because now we can't rely on our initial source, which was sport activities.
Like so event-based activities.
And you know, from press conferences to building up to the event, that was sort of how we used to do things. But now it was difficult, because we have to come up with ideas of how to keep listeners, viewers, readers entertained. And the fact that we don't have now that original source, we have to come up with new content.
Of course.
We know that most people come to sport as a way to get away from what is happening in the world. And we now had to step up and make people, you know, still feel that connection to sport. To engage with them. And so coming up with content was really difficult, because now you have to think outside the box from the norm. And it's still difficult.
Because we're obviously still presently in it.
We're still in it. And so it's still difficult, because we don't have that original source, and coming up with content is very difficult, especially in the sport fraternity. I think by now I'm running out of ideas. I'm running out of ways to keep listeners engaged.
Of course.
Because we now have to look at past events and look at people's journeys.
But and try and refresh it.
And trying to bring out a better side from it, or a different side from it that people haven't heard before. So that becomes a challenge. And really, you know, just coming up every single day, I'm scratching my head. How do I make the listeners engaged? But thankfully, when it comes to international, it's picking up a bit. We're seeing football is returning, so we are now building up towards that. And you know, just constantly reminding listeners that we are coming. International football is coming back. Formula One is coming back. I see also here at home, tennis is coming back with
the cricket as well.
Cricket is also, you know, coming back. Non-contact sports were given the green light to go ahead. So we can anticipate for at least them giving us a few events. But it's still very difficult, because most of them, like cricket, preparing for the World Cup, they had a lot of games scheduled. Those are cancelled. So now we can just build up on the anticipation of whether the Cricket World Cup is going to happen or not. So it's in general difficult.
It's a stretch, actually, mind-blowing as well. How do you think social media, for instance, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, has what effect does it have on sports journalism in general? Because I see with I do print, and now I do broadcasting a bit as well. So looking at sports in general, you have social media. Before you can actually even break a story in print, somebody has already posted it on social media. How does it affect sports journalism?
traditional media, as much as we want to keep it, we have to evolve with the times.
Yeah, of course.
Because we have to be on our toes now. We are not the first source of information any longer.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Because I can break the story personally, you can break the story personally before even, our organizations that we work for can break the story. And that's the evolution we're in. And we have to now adjust from normal to constantly being on our phones, trying to pick up where is this next story, where is it coming from, is it real or not? Now that's the problem. We have to now, as much as we look at social media, we have
the
to now
the authenticity of the story.
We still need to see whether the story is legit or not. We still have to do background check to see when we do go report it now, is it a genuine story or not? We can't merely just base it on social media. Yes, social media is where we are at right now, but we still have to go to the source, find out, is it true? I can't just read about Limba, having done A, B, C, and D,
and then you just
take the story and run with it. I still need to call Limba and confirm, Limba, did you do A, B, C, and D? And then I also quote her on what she said and say, Limba said she was involved or she was not involved based on what her words of affirmation. And so I think with social media, it's the negative impact that it kind of has when some of the stories are not true.
Yeah, we don't double check.
But that's also where now we as journalists now need to come in with the credibility side of it, because it's actually our job to make sure that people are informed correctly and that they know what is going on in the world. So now we have the due diligence to actually make sure that whatever we see on social media, before we run anything, before we just take the story, we have to verify. We still have to do our due diligence because it's our job.
Of course, and that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand, because the idea that people have about journalism or journalists is that we pick up things and it's gossip and it's rumors and we run with that. And it becomes very difficult, even for myself, when I have to explain to somebody, yes, I'm a journalist. Then at times I do not want to say that because people are very skeptical about journalism.
Yes.
I say I'm in communications, for instance. So what do you do in an instance when somebody, for instance, says that you have reported you have reported about them in a bad light? How do you try to try and keep that person still close to you? What do you do?
I haven't gotten the incident of where I've done a story on somebody who is not right or not correct. All my stories, I think, since somebody has complained, are right. But I think the first thing that comes off is when I say, listen, I am a journalist. Everybody becomes a bit
stiff,
okay, don't go say A, B, C, and D. Cut that out. Don't say this. Or after I've done a story, or even before I go do a story, somebody says, listen, change that, don't add that, let's redo it because I don't think I said the right thing. I've gotten those, and I've listened to people and I said, okay, I won't run the story today, I'll do it tomorrow, so that you can get a chance to listen to it again and then go over it, and then you tell me what you want me to say. So I give people that privilege to say, to retract their statements, because I will run with what you said, because the good thing about radio is that your words are going to be playing. I'm not going to quote you. It's your own words. So we can't say I lied about the story, because unless I saw it from print, then sometimes I have to do my own due diligence as well. But if we do an interview, then you have to tell me whether you want me to run with it, and we can double check before I do the story.
Before it's aired.
So that's the only part. But most of the times, people are afraid of being misquoted. Being in the public eye is a lot already to handle, especially for athletes working in sport. They are very laid back. They don't like
as well. Also, you don't want to come out and be
So that's the only problem. And getting athletes to talk is also another challenge, because they want to just be athletes. They don't want to be in front of cameras and have to tell their stories. And that's the one thing that I've noticed. Most of them don't really want to tell, because they don't know how to politically tell it,
Yeah.
which is politically correct. You know,
Yeah,
we
but
live
at
on
times,
that.
but at times when you tell your story, people better understand
Yeah.
you. If you need help, you know, people can help you in that instance as well. So I don't think that it's always a thing of we want to push them in the limelight to promote
true.
our agendas. You know, sometimes we just want to help them as well. Okay, coming back to women in sports, you and I now, my story obviously is very much different from yours. How do you then deal with, you say you want to gather content about something that you want to report on. Are you taken seriously as a woman in the sports industry?
Our industry is very small. Sport fraternity is very small. I think we all know each other in the sport fraternity, and I think I can remember we used to be 3. Now Ailey left us in sport, but the beginning for me was the challenge of saying, listen, I'm a sport journalist. I want to do an interview on you. I want to cover you. I want to do this. There's always that perception of
what does she know about football?
What does she know about football? What does she know about boxing? What does she know about anything sport? So it comes down to, oh, were you an athlete? Did you do sport? So that they can at least find a way to connect with me if I was, you know, in sport. And that's not my story. I was never an athlete. I never did professional sport in any sort. So gaining that trust for me was the most important, and doing grassroots for me is really, really important. You can't always start with, you know, the top. You need to go down, do your research, make sure that you are well-rounded in whatever it is that you want to discuss. If I have to discuss cricket today, I need to make sure that I watch so much cricket, I get the all the information. So when I come to you, I can't come and say, I think. No, I must be sure about my facts.
Yeah, that also builds confidence.
Confidence as well. So that for me has been one of the challenges at the beginning. But right now, I'm taken seriously. And because I take myself seriously,
of course,
and I conduct myself in a professional way. The minute we try to blur those lines and I allow somebody to not take me seriously, that's where everything, you know, that I have built could possibly, you know, lead to just nothing, because I'm not now getting the story. It's now about me. I become the story, but I'm supposed to get the story from you.
Of course.
So that's one of the challenges. I think for women coming up in sport, that's a real challenge. And I see it in all dynamics, whether you want to be a physician, whether you want to...
A coach. Yeah.
It's the taking seriously part. But I think after you build your own credibility, which I think it's unfair, we don't need to build credibility.
Exactly, you know.
I'm doing my job. So we have to build our credibility. When you walk into an office, you need to make sure that you are, you know, there for the purpose, and you're sticking to what you're there for. You can't divert from it, and I don't think it's fair that we have to do that. I think we should just be taken as seriously as...
My experience is that a lot of times when people read my name in the paper, for instance, the Limba Mupetami, they think that it's a gentleman. So when I call, they're like, they expect a male voice. So I'm like, no, I'm actually a lady. And they're like, oh, but you actually know a lot about these things. I'm like, yes, well,
it's my job.
It's my job.
Yeah.
What was the most exciting moment of your career? If ever, if you maybe you met somebody in one of your reporting, what would be your highlight?
I have so many. For me, broadcast has always been the dream. Sport broadcast has been the dream, and to cover some of the events has been a lifelong dream. Like doing the 2018 World Cup.
Of course,
that was, I would say, one of the best memories. I've always wanted to work on a World Cup. I bug producers to put me on air. I will bug you and say, listen, I need to do this. And for me is, I think, visualizing what I want for myself in my career.
Of course,
and being able to do some of those really big events. Because when you do World Cup, everybody sees you. When you do AFCON, everybody sees you.
You know, the experience also is with our editors and our managers and our bosses.
Yeah.
You know, when you say, I want to travel to AFCON, they're like, oh, there's no money. But that is the highlight of your career.
That is.
You know? Because these are the guys that we report about. So I just don't want to sit in Windhoek in Namibia and be, you know, pulling something from international media. I want to experience that
and
myself.
I want to be the one to say, I covered that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people don't understand, is that we want to be the first source. We don't want to be a secondary source.
Yeah.
I want to say, listen, I was in Russia. I did the story. I did that story. I was there, not watching it on TV, but I was, you know, I was in Egypt. I did that. So those are the things. And in broadcast, you would also want to be noticed by the world, because our credibility comes from what have you done. When people look at your CV, our CV is not, I worked at ABC for how many years. Our CV is, I produced this, I did this content, I did this,
I
you know,
was there.
and so for, I would think 2018 was a big mark for me, because I got to work on some really amazing projects. Then 2019 I did AFCON. That was also another big highlight for me. So now I think what I would want to do next is actually, you know, go to the World Cup, the next World Cup, not be at home and reporting here, but go there the next time. I want to go to AFCON the next time, but you have to tell me about your experience.
That is a story for another day. For women who want to enter the fray of sports journalism, would you encourage them to do so, and what would your message be based on the experiences that you've had?
I would actually. I want to see more women in sport. I want to see more representation, because we are fighting for the girl child to have a place in everything. We want them to have a place in business. We want them to have a voice in media. And media is a very large base. It's from entertainment to current affairs to sport, and I feel like we are not that well represented.
But a lot of people believe that it's a male-dominated.
It is.
Yeah.
So but I think we're changing it.
Perception.
Yeah, we need to change the perception that, you know, just come as yourself. Is it? And I think with sport is very different. You have to be passionate,
of course,
about it.
It makes it easier.
Because it's not heels. I love to wear my heels, but I kind of make it look easy, but it's not. You have to do games. You have to sit at fields burning in the sun. You have to be at, you know, cycle events
and chase people that do not want to speak to you.
Who don't want to speak to you, and mostly are men. So you have to chase and say, "Sir, can you listen to me?" Because it takes one person to give you a big break, you know, to be able to say, "Listen, she is capable, and I will let her write about me because she has conducted herself in this and that way." And for women who really want to join the sport fraternity in broadcast, in print, you have to be passionate.
Yeah.
You have to want to put in the work. It's not about the glitz, the glamour.
The late nights.
Yeah, it's the late nights. Yeah. So that, and, you know, having deadlines. So it's that, and really, really wanting to make a difference. What is the purpose that you want to serve in the sport fraternity? What do you want to be known for? I think is what you have to ask yourself before you go into sport.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joviita. Just some of the things, sports is now picking up, international sports is picking up. What can we look forward to this weekend? If maybe you know of any events. I know the Bundesliga is. Yeah.
So in terms of sports, the weekend, that's mainly what we can look forward to is football, Bundesliga. There's going to be a lot of exciting games. The title chase, I feel like I know there's only 5 more games remaining.
Of course.
But with Bayern being on top, so that's going to be another weekend for them to make sure that, you know, they can collect more points,
of course,
stay being on top. And Borussia, they won the title, unfortunately, 7 points and 5 more games it's something that they will have to put in a lot of work and count on their, you know, a bit of miracles.
Thank you so much, Joviita, for joining us in studio. Viewers, please join us again on Monday for another edition of Sport Wrap. Goodbye.